Welcome everybody. Let me shut off my air conditioner because it is loud. Welcome everybody to our weekly training this week. So we've been doing a lot of technical stuff lately, and I personally have been doing a lot of technical stuff, and it's been quite the trip on the tech support line this summer. It's been busy everywhere. We were really concerned that we weren't going to have a busy season in HVAC this year. We had some real slow start outs right in the spring. So I try to cram as much as I can to you guys in the summertime, but it's a lot, and it's a lot to remember. And then on top of that, it's a lot in your brain space. You know, whatever I give you right now is going to be right out the window when you're up at 5 in the morning heading to a job site. You're not going to leave till 11 o'clock tomorrow night. So instead, I want to talk about, I actually saw this, I saw this really cool commercial. I've been watching Spectrum TV, like just my regular cable. And I saw this commercial that was one of those the more you know commercials. And it was about mentors, about being a mentor. And it was talking about how being a mentor helps the mentor just as much as it helps the mentee. And we're going to get into that, all of that in this class. But it made me really just kind of strike a chord. It was just like, let's talk about being a mentor. Like, we have a mentor program, and that's great, but we don't have, you know, a training school you go to in order to be a mentor. And HVA-Chicks, we vet your background, we vet you as a person, we check out your social media, we stalk you for a little while, but that's really all we have to prepare you for being a mentor. We just take your experience and try to give you as many tools as we can throughout the process, you know. So we're kind of treating the issue after it comes rather than before it comes. So for anybody who might not already be a mentor, and I don't mean you guys, I don't mean our program specifically. That's not what this is about. I mean mentoring somebody in anything, in life, in work, in church, in any part of your life. If you are mentoring somebody, you probably already know a lot of this. But the other thing is, if you're thinking about mentoring, a lot of what happens is we get an overreactive brain, right? We get, am I good enough to be a mentor? You know, I still feel every day like I need to be mentored. How can I really think to be responsible for mentoring somebody else? And that is a never-ending cycle. That feeling will never stop. So if you wait until you're ready, quote unquote, to mentor, you will never be ready. So I want to get you guys into this a little bit, but I want to first thank our sponsors. Today's training is going to be brought to everybody by Freshco. It is a facilities maintenance company up in Canada. They're really awesome. They're one of our companies. And they think enough of us that they hired us and want to be part of our little thing we got going on here. So thank you, Freshco, for this training. Those of you on YouTube, I cannot see your comments right now. So why are women in America so Jezebels? Apparently I can see your comments, and that's a great one. Yes, we're Jezebels. That's right. You should probably run away really, really fast. Anyway, I'm not going to address the comments on YouTube, you guys. After this one, I'm going to address the actual Zoom meeting, because I have people in the Zoom meeting looking to learn. So if you want to talk back and forth, please go onto the HVA-Chicks Coalition page and grab the Zoom meeting. Pop right in. So I have this whiteboard up here, and I have put the specific statistics on this whiteboard because it's important. It's important to know that mentors are not a standalone island. It's not this crazy thing that we're talking about where it's like, you know, only the best of the best of the best should be mentors. Like, that's not a thing. And today we're talking about it in terms of HVAC, but also people, right? Just in terms of people. So some statistics I wanted to share with you guys first is that 84% of Fortune 500 companies have established mentoring programs. That reflects a growing trend in corporate environments to leverage mentorship for talent development. Who knew that having somebody experienced in a craft walk through somebody who isn't as experienced career with them could have an impact, right? And it's crazy to me because the trades have always known this. We have apprenticeships for a reason. Apprenticeships are just mentorships with really big tools, right? Even in the Industrial Revolution, it wasn't like some guy showed up on a job site and just automatically knew how to build a skyscraper, right? A guy showed up on a job site and said, I'm willing to be a horse. Tell me what to do. And in all those years of telling him what to do and telling him what to do and telling him what to do, now he's the one over here leading the crew who's building the skyscraper. And that is something the trades have always been privy to. We've always known how important mentorship is. But it is interesting to me that just now is corporate America coming on board with that. Just now. But 84% is a pretty big number. It's really great. It's proving, right? They wouldn't put all this money into these programs if it wasn't helping. It's proving that being a mentor and being a mentee really, really is, it matters in business, in any type of business. So the next one is 100% of US Fortune 50 companies and 96% of US Fortune 100 companies also have mentor programs in place. So we're talking almost all of them. That means that smaller businesses than the Fortune 500s have already come to terms with the fact that we should have business apprenticeships too, marketing apprenticeships, advertising apprenticeships. We should have financial apprenticeships. We should have apprenticeships in every single aspect of work. If it's a job, it should have a mentorship. And we don't have to call it that. I mean, in the trades, we never called it that. We called it an apprenticeship, right? And over the years, at first there were really strict, really strict rules on being an apprentice and on having an apprentice, right? I know that in Maine, just the tattoo apprenticeship, just to be a tattoo artist, you had to be a tattoo apprentice for 4 years. I mean, these are really big asks. So they've dropped those a lot because of the worker shortages in all of these different areas of life. But it doesn't change the fact that it's useful and that it helps. So we need to kind of, you know, post-pandemic and post-worker shortage, we need to bring this back into every single area of business. And those Fortune 50 companies are doing it. Smaller companies understand the importance. So let's get into a few better ones, a few of my favorites, right? Mentees are 5 times more likely to be promoted than those without a mentor, highlighting the effectiveness of mentorship in career advancement. So if you know somebody who does the job you do, and you can ask them questions, if you can learn things from them, if you can keep an open mind with them and open communication with them, you are 5 times more likely to get promoted. That's a big statistic. So just simply having somebody who's in your field, who's done what you do to talk to, makes you 5 times more likely to be promoted. Mentors, now this is mentors, are 6 times more likely to be promoted compared to their peers, indicating that mentoring benefits both parties involved. What I have learned, if I have learned nothing else from my lovely, beautiful, wonderful tech support line that I love so much, even though it's a hard day today on tech support. Today's been a hard day. My tech support line has taught me one thing, and that is that I cannot learn as efficiently. Oh, our phone's ringing. I cannot learn as efficiently unless I'm teaching, right? If I am learning to teach myself, I now have that knowledge. It sits there. I have nothing to do with it. It has nothing else to do. It just sits there until I slowly, bit by bit, forget everything I just learned, right? Life happens. You know, I have to remember my kids' doctor's appointments and my entire job and everything I do in my 4 full-time jobs. And I have to remember, you know, when is my anniversary? I have to remember all these things that are so much more important. And so that technical knowledge, that business knowledge tends to be the first thing that kind of flits away out of my memory. And that's for everybody. I'm not the only one. It's all of you know what I'm talking about. So what I've learned is when you're teaching it, it gets used. It's just like a muscle. Knowledge is like a muscle. Your brain is a muscle. The more you use that knowledge, the more solid in that knowledge you are, right? So every time, my first year that I got a tech support call and I was trying to walk people through it, I was genuinely just pulling from my own experience, right? Well, now, after all these years, I'm pulling from hundreds of people's experience because I was there with them. I was right there with them. So I got to gain that experience, but also I learned what doesn't work, what isn't right, and stop it. You just messed up the YouTube live. Anyway, so point being, if you teach something, you're way more likely to retain it yourself and you become an expert. The difference between being an expert and not being an expert is how many people you've taught that information to. Like John Ellis is here on the Zoom with me, and I just think he's a really good example here. I'm sure that at one point in John Ellis's life, he didn't see himself as the IAQ god, but he learned it and then taught it and kept learning and kept teaching and kept learning and kept teaching over and over and over again for decades. And where has that gotten John Ellis? That has gotten him to the point where we all bow to him in the IAQ world. If we have a question, we call John Ellis. There is no other. And that, yes, and that's where you will be. Pick something. Pick what that thing is that gives you that spark. And then not only learn it, like I am huge on continued learning. You know me, I'm here providing it every day. But if you share it with other people, you will know it so much more deeply than you ever would without teaching it. And that is the real thing. It's sometimes the difference between you being an expert or not is jumping off a cliff, right? It's, I'm going to keep this to myself. I think this is really useful information. I think not a lot of people know about it. I think it would help a lot of people to know about it, but I'm too scared to jump off that cliff and put myself out there and get on a camera or show up at an event or, you know, issue a training, because I have imposter syndrome. And we say that word way too much in this coalition, but it's because we all have it. It's all true. If you continuously don't believe you can do something, you won't do something. But if you continuously not only believe that you can do something, but that others can do it, you're going to be right at the top, no matter what. All right, so mentors 6 times more likely to get promoted. That's because the more you teach, the more you learn. It's a constant cycle of learning. 2 sources say that companies with mentoring programs report employee retention rates of 72% for mentees, compared to 49% for those not engaged in a mentorship. That is a big gap. That's a gap that needs to be filled. If every single company could handle doing a one-on-one or a one-on-group mentorship, it's just like, think about Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Alcoholics Anonymous works individually, yes, but it works because of the group setting. It works because of the sponsors, the one-on-one sponsors. That is a mentorship. If you've ever been in AA, you know mentorship works. I know I do. And then on top of that, you can look at these statistics and say, well, if I'm trying to get employees, if I'm a business owner trying to get employees, what's one thing that is low stress, high impact that I can do in order to make sure I'm retaining people, right? Who can I set into this position? So that instead of a service manager and a project manager and a VP and a CEO, instead of these people being the people have to come to, because I'm not going to go to the CEO with a technical question, right? I'm not going to go to the service manager with a life question, right? I haven't seen one of my kids' dance recitals in 5 years, and I really want to make it to this one. I don't want to look at my service manager and say that, right? I want somebody that's on the same level as me or has been on the same level as me, who I can go to for advice, not for answers. Right? I don't want to go to the person who makes the decision to give me advice, because they're going to make that decision based on what they need, what their needs are, not what mine are. Now, going to an impartial third party, there's no risk, right? So if I, as a business owner, can appoint someone who can be that impartial third party, but who can also make sure that all of my employees are getting that guidance that they need, or even 4 guys, make heads of departments, put them in this situation. All of those people are going to be at a 72% higher chance of staying in my company than if I didn't do that. So very, very low stress, but very, very high impact to just appoint people to be mentors. And you don't have to call them that. Like I said, you don't have to hire people and say, you're a mentor, that's your title. You just have to have somebody that is a delegated force in someone else's life that can say, hey, I really want to go to the service manager because I haven't seen one of my kids' dance recitals in 5 years. But how do you think I should do that? That alone is so helpful for a human being who's trying really, really hard not to look like they don't want to work, right? 89% of individuals who have been mentored express a desire to mentor others in the future, fostering a culture of support and development. And so we know based on human statistics, not just work statistics, but we know based on human statistics that if you do something, you are way more likely to turn around and do it, right? And we see that in the cycle of abuse, right? Just in the cycle of abuse, the cycle of substance abuse even. If you are born in a house that your parents did this, you are way more likely to do what your parents did, right? But if we can turn that into a positive, it doesn't seem quite so scary, does it? Because if we know that 89% of individuals who have been mentored express a desire to mentor others, all we have to do is hire one mentor, and that trickle effect will come down the pipeline. And then those people will mentor, and those people will mentor, and those people will mentor, and you won't have to appoint them anymore. Then your whole company is just mentoring each other. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's something that was really important to me with HVA-Chicks Coalition. I did not want a place where it was one person at the top and they kind of, it seems culty, right? It seems culty to just speak at people all the time. And I see this with a lot of organizations in and out of HVAC. I see that there's kind of a hierarchy, and then there's everybody at the bottom. It's like capitalism, right? You have the 1% and then you have the 99%. And I didn't want HVA-Chicks Coalition to be like that. And that was why initially I started the mentor program, because I figured, there's not going to be a lot of people who reach out to me and say, hey, I want to help somebody. I want to help a younger tech. How can I do that? It's going to be one of more of those situations where we have to kind of reach out and ask people to help younger techs. So I started the mentor program for that reason. And then something crazy happened, which was everybody wanted to mentor. We had way more mentors than we had mentees. And so we still have the mentor program, but we have this kind of giant 2,000 person wide network now of just people helping each other. There is not a single time you could post in HVA-Chicks Coalition and not get at least 3 or 4 answers to your question. So what's important is that we know how to do that properly and safely. And that's something that we have not touched on. I mean, we touch on it individually with mentors, but there are situations where it doesn't go as planned, or where you're not sure what the right thing to do or the right advice is to give. And so what do we do in that situation? First, I'm going to delete this whiteboard and try to start a new one. Ooh, look at that, clear page. Okay. So what we're going to do is I want to go through some situations where you might have an issue. So the first thing I want to talk about is gender-based mentoring. Okay, so gender-based mentoring. A lot of companies implement this practice. How do I say this nicely? It's archaic. It is archaic to base your mentor matches based on gender. It just is. If we did that in HVAC, if that was our sole, prerogative, we would have 2% mentees with mentors, right? And we have to split that. So we'd have 1% of mentees with 1% of mentors. And the rest of it would be people with no mentees or no mentors, because there's just not enough women. So when we choose gender-based mentoring, that needs to be used for a very, very specific situation. So if you have a company in which you have pretty equal numbers, males and females, and you're able to get the positioning, so like you can't just match people based on their peoplehood, you have to also match them based on their experience, right? So if you have enough people that you can match with their experience, where women are with women and men are with men, okay. But that would be a very, very rare, perfect world situation that we're not in. And especially not in the trades. So instead of gender-based mentoring, what we do is, I don't know if I can do this. Guys, I'm just learning how to use this whiteboard while I'm teaching. What we do is, we do experience-based. And yes, there are situations where it might feel weird that you don't have a mentor or a mentee of your same gender. HVAC can't be one of them. And no trade can. And let me tell you why. Because in the real world of your career, very, very seldom as a woman will you have the opportunity to walk up to another female in HVAC on site and say, can you help me with this? Can I ask you this question? Most states, Maine included, I still have yet, you guys, I'm all these years in, I still have yet to meet one single female in HVAC in Maine. Have not met one. They're out there. I know they're out there. I've seen evidence, but I have not met one. So if you're going through life only wanting to work with females, only wanting to ask females questions, only wanting to ask advice from females, and you're a female, you are going to leave a lot of knowledge and help and love and support and encouragement on the table. And so we don't practice that in HVA-Chicks Coalition, even though it's kind of counterintuitive to our name. We don't practice that. Instead, we do experience-based mentoring. So with experience-based mentors, what you're doing is you're taking two people. You're taking a mentee who has joined and asked for a mentor, and you're taking a mentor who has joined and asked for a mentee, and you're matching them based on what they do. So John Ellis is in our mentor program. John Ellis would be matched with somebody who is looking to gain knowledge on indoor air quality, on health benefits of indoor air quality, on the science of it, on molecular, health of a home. Things like this are what we would not ever take like a refrigeration tech that's working on rack refrigeration in a supermarket and say, John Ellis would be a great mentor for you. He would figure it out because he's John Ellis. Not for any other reason. John Ellis would go and research the world and become an expert in rack refrigeration if that's what it meant to help you. But not everybody's John Ellis, right? And so what we try to do is take from your experience, and we can never match two up. I was just talking about this on a podcast the other day. In HVAC, you're lucky if you find somebody, even at your own company, that has the exact same job as you. So like there might be 4 service techs, right? But this service tech is usually working on gyms, and this service tech is usually working on supermarkets, and this service tech does the residential stuff. Like, even in one company, it's really hard to find two people who do the same job. Even if you are, say you're a service manager at this company and your friend's a service manager at this company, every single thing you know is so far different that it would be really hard to match you exactly on experience. So instead what we do is we take people, okay, so I'll use myself as an example just because I don't want to out anybody in the mentor program, right? So I'm going to look for a mentor for myself. If I'm doing that, Danny and I are sitting at a table and we're going through all of our mentees and we're going to say, okay, these are our residential, well, all right, let's not use me for an example. That's a bad idea. We'll use a residential lead, for example, okay? Somebody's been in the field for 30 years, right? That's who we're trying to match with a mentee. So now we're going to pull all of the residential techs and we're going to go through their experience. We're going to go through what they told us they wanted out of a mentor. And we're going to say, is this a right fit for them? We're going to look at the mentors form and see what did they want to, what kind of knowledge do they want to offer? And we're going to say, would this benefit this mentee? And what I have noticed in doing this for all this time, we have 80 mentor matches already matched, and we have probably 80 waiting to be matched. So just know that I've done this for a long time. What I have found is that the best matches that are made are based on not exact experience, but experience and futures, right? So this is what this tech has done and is capable of. And this is what this tech will be capable of after he's with this tech for a while, right? So it's just like if you were going to do an apprenticeship. You're not going to go to an apprenticeship for refrigeration if what you want to be is a residential tech, right? So I'm not just taking two people, two bodies and matching them together. We want to match based on experience. And what happens is we end up with, I have a woman named Christy, right? And Christy is 20 years in to her CO2 rack refrigeration career. And then, 10 years later, we get this little girl named Jamie, and she's like, I really want to get into CO2 rack refrigeration. And I'm like, holy crap. Christy's been waiting on the back burner forever because I don't have a new tech coming in that wants to gain from her experience. But then boom, here she is. And imagine if we had matched Christy already and she wasn't an option when Jamie came in. So instead, now Jamie and Christy are matched. So in your life, in your own individual life, if you're not being matched by a third party company like HVA-Chicks or like Women in HVACR, or I don't know who else does it. I know we both do. We're actually going to be working together to match our mentees pretty soon here. But if you're just an individual and you're just looking to help somebody, we have a beautiful thing called the internet. And so what you're going to be using, if you're going to do this outside of a program, see if this works again. You're going to be going with a global or national mentorship. And so that all that means is that you're not in a program. If you're in a program, you say the name of your program, right? If you are scouring the internet to find a technician to help, you're just in a global or national mentorship. So if you're only looking in the US for a mentor, you're going to be in a national mentorship. If you're looking all over the world, you're going to get somebody like our buddy in Belize, Mr. Oz, right? If you're looking for that, if you're looking for somebody to mentor that doesn't have access to the EPA, right? Which is a lot of fun. It's a great challenge to mentor people that are from other countries because they don't have the standards we have. And we're able to then teach somebody outside of our country what our environmental standards are, which is pretty great. So if you're going to do that, you're in a global mentorship, or you're looking for a national or a global mentorship. So anybody wanting to do this on their own absolutely can. What I want to talk about is where you can get into trouble. And we have a lot of safeguards in place in the HVA-Chicks Coalition for this problem. So if you don't do gender-based mentoring, right, you're going to have men with women. It's just going to happen. That's how it is in the trade. That's how it is in real life. That's how it is everywhere. You don't want to censor your mentorship either. You don't want to devise your mentorship either. You want it to be men and women matched with men and women, helping each other based on experience and not on gender. And so what can happen is a lot of situations. So one time we had a situation where we had a female mentee coming in and writing specifically on her form that she did not want a male mentor. Now, we are HVA-Chicks Coalition. We were in a very unique situation where we were able to accommodate that. Most won't be. Most won't be. And if you can't have a mentor that is a man because you're a woman for only that reason, you really need to rethink your place in the trades, because those are going to be your mentors, whether you like it or not. Men are going to be your mentors. And if you don't allow them to be, then you're just going to be really shitty at your job, basically, right? So we were able to accommodate that. We no longer do accommodate that. This was an old mentor match from when we first started out, and we learned that we need to emulate the real world. So that is going to be the next thing that I put down here. You need to emulate the real world in your mentorship program.
Hey, Jen.
Yeah.
When you're typing, it's not showing up on the screen. It's dropped way down below where anybody can see it.
Oh,
like
what on God's good life.
Okay,
hold on.
Matters. I just thought I'd tell you.
Now it matters because the whole point of having a whiteboard. So I was going to go into my whiteboard, my actual whiteboard. Let me clear this page, guys, and I'll kind of try again. I'm going to close out the whiteboard and then start over. But I was like, wait, I think Zoom has a whiteboard. And then it did, but it's clearly not very awesome. Or I just don't know how to use it, operator failure.
Actually, I don't think it was the operator. It might be the settings on the individual because mine was showing up across the middle of my screen.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Might be you, John. Hey.
Of course. Yeah, but when you were typing it, it was dropping.
Like dropping? All right, yeah. See if this does. I'm typing now. Can you see it?
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. Okay, so emulate, real world. We'll say environment. Whoa, what did I do here? Beautiful. And those of you on YouTube who can't see this, I will share the Zoom later on YouTube as well. It'll be a duplicate class just because the live will stay there, but this will be the recorded class that you can get into and get all the good information. Because this class was actually being shot on Zoom for today. Real world environment. So one way is with gender, right? The real world environment is you ain't going to see a woman for the next 12 years, lady. Get used to it. That being said, there are situations where some men should not be matched with women if they are in a position of, I don't want to say power because that's not what a mentorship is, just to be very clear. A superiority position, I guess, right? And it's not, you're not superior either. A more experienced position, we'll say that. Anybody who is offering guidance to anybody else should be a very specific type of person. And it doesn't matter male or female. Some women, let me tell you, some women should not be matched with younger men, especially when they find them very handsome, right? We've had situations where bad things have happened. We've had situations where men have stepped over the line with their mentees. We've had situations where women that were mentors have gotten too attached to their male mentee, and that's not safe. These are things that we have to think about when we're not using gender-based. And that's why companies do. That's why companies do use gender-based mentor matching. And it's not that whoever doesn't have me muted, mute me, please. Or mute you, I mean. Yeah, it's you, Jimmy. If you're not going to use it, you're going to be put in situations. But the point is not to then go back to this archaic practice of devising people based on their, genitalia, but instead to put safeguards in. So safeguards, right? Safeguards. What can we use for safeguards? A, lines of communication. In the HVA-Chicks Foundation, we are able to use any form of communication, really. I mean, we don't want you out here using WhatsApp or disappearing Snapchat to talk to your mentee, obviously. But we are very, very lax as far as what form of communication you can use. But say you're not HVA-Chicks Coalition, right? You're a company owner. You have company email. And we start off on email as well, just because it's a very formal, kind of safer practice, right? But as a mentor and a mentee get to know each other, I'm not going to tell them they can't message each other on Facebook or text each other's phones. That's up to the match themselves. But if you are a company, you want to drop that. You don't want them having that option. So it's going to be, public ways of communication. You can start a leaderboard or a letter board. You can make it so that everybody that talks to each other, if it's a mentor match, you have all these letter boards. That's each mentor match so that you can sift through them. So they're public messages. You can do email only. That way you can, if something were to happen, if an accusation was made, you'd be able to pull those company emails and say, no, that didn't happen. Or yes, it did. And we need to address this. So that's going to be the big one. Forms of communication. So what I mean by that is not to censor, or it's not to take away the confidentiality of any mentor match, because I will say this with my mentees. I currently have a mentee that is struggling really, really hard with life stuff and not has nothing to do with work, but I'm his mentor. And so some of the things that he says to me, he says in confidence. Some of the things he's going through that he lets me in on are not meant for the rest of the world. And if you want mentor matches to be able to have that kind of relationship, I would just really put on a training about what is appropriate to talk about, what isn't appropriate to talk about, right? These are not questions we ask our mentor. These are not, this is not advice that you give your mentee. And the other thing that I would always push, and this is going to be the most important thing that I say, so I'm definitely going to write this down. We give advice, not answers. A mentor is not a doctor. A mentor is not your boss. A mentor cannot see the future. And in HVAC, there is no such thing as a perfect diagnoser, right? There is no one person in HVAC who has gotten it right every damn time. Ever. Ever. And I mean, in the history of HVAC, that has never happened. Because if it had happened, it would be a real big deal for us, wouldn't it? We'd know about it. Every person has the capability of human error, right? And that's why we want them with mentors. We don't want them going to Chat GPT for every single question that they have. That's got its own errors, weird errors of its own. But also, it doesn't build a connection. It doesn't form a bond from human to human. And sometimes it's not about what we're asking our mentor. You as a mentor may be the only person that person has. And so if that's the case, we don't want this to be clinical, right? We don't want it to be whitewashed. We want it to be real life that we're talking about here. But because it's real life, it has real error, real margin for error. So we don't give answers. If a mentor calls me and says, if I ask my boss this, do you think I'll get fired? I will not answer that question. He is asking me for my opinion, but there is always a situation where my opinion means more to him than it should. There's always a situation where he values my opinion as a, I'm not going to say leader. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to say leader because I do want to be seen as a leader, but there's a line and it gets crossed all the time. It gets crossed with me a lot specifically. So I've gotten really, really good at this we give advice, not answers thing. Tech support, right? I have a tech support line. There are many times where people have called me and we've not been able to get to the bottom of it maybe. And then I've reached back out and said, wait, I got it. Right? And when I say, wait, I got it, this guy's thinking I got it for sure. Is there still a chance that wait, I got it isn't correct? Absolutely. 100%. So I have to be very, very careful to not say, wait, I got it. I got the answer. I have to say, this is what I found in my research. If it were me on site, and I use this all the time, and I know that Jimmy does too, so it's funny that he's here. We use this all the time on the tech support line. If it were me, if I were on site, if this were my job, this is what I would do. That way, I'm not saying this is what you have to do. I'm not saying if you do this, the system will work perfectly and beautifully and you'll have a 40-degree evaporator, right? I'm saying, if it were me, this is the course of action I would take. This is the sequence of operations I would walk through. And it's really important to word things that way. So when your mentee comes to you and asks you a direct question, sometimes the answer, instead of saying, yes, I know how you should deal with that, instead is to say, yes, I know how I would deal with that. Right? Very, very, very important. And if you don't listen to anything else I say today, please listen to that. Because a lot of people will take your advice as an answer and they're calling for advice. But in reality, they were calling for an answer. And when you give them that advice, they misconstrue it as an answer. And now you're the bad guy. Or you're looked at like you're abusing your power. Or you're looking, like you are a know-it-all. Or you're looking like you don't actually know what you're doing. And I mean, how often in HVAC are we wrong? Like 5 times per diagnosis if you're me. Right? Like every time I'm diagnosing a system, I'm right, maybe after the 3rd try, if I'm lucky. So
We're like meteorologists.
That's exactly what we are. We are predicting. If we say, yes, we think we fixed your system, we really think we did. You know, that doesn't mean that tonight when the outdoor temp drops to 60 degrees, you're not going to have a frozen coil, but I tried. I thought I had the answer. So instead, I'm just offering advice. That's all I can do is offer advice to you. So when someone like my mentee that just came to me with a really heavy problem, and I say, my first words are, and I'm going to write this down too, you don't have to disclose if you don't want to. Boop. But I'm willing.
How many times a week do I say that to my trainees?
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to disclose if you don't want to, but I'm willing to keep your... Why is it going up there? Jesus, I hate this whiteboard already. But I'm willing to keep your confidentiality. Man, it's not going to let me type it. Oh, it just lagged for a second. Okay. Intact. So, when my mentee says, I'm sorry I haven't been around for a while, I'm going through some heavy stuff, I have two choices. I can say, okay, here when you need me, right? And that is a perfectly worthy approach. That is respecting a boundary. That's respecting the fact that that mentee ghosted you for a while, which tells you, you know, that's a good indicator that they didn't want to talk about it, right? They didn't come right to you with it and immediately say, hey, hey, hey. They said, I'm sorry I haven't been around in a while, but this is just something I'm dealing with. And so you can take that and you can wipe your hands of it. And that's perfectly acceptable to just say, okay, that's fine. I'm here when you need me. If you're a different type of person than that, or if you really care about that mentee and you want to help, or you think maybe your life experiences may have something in there that you can share, which is so important. I can't stress how important your life experiences are. So many people look at their lives like they haven't experienced anything, right? And that's so not true. Every individual has experienced so many things, so learned so many lessons over and over and over again, even if they've never left their hometown, right? Every single experience you've ever had is helpful because if it's happened once, that means it's possible to happen to someone else. And you just might run into that one someone else that needs that lesson you learned, right? So you can say, okay, I'm here if you need me. I'm sorry for whatever you're going through, but you know, you have my number. And that's perfectly acceptable. I will hail you as an amazing mentor for doing that. I will also hail you as an amazing mentor for saying in your mind, maybe he reached out now because now he's ready to reach out, right? So I have to say in my mind, okay, so he just ghosted me whenever whatever happened. And now here we are 3 weeks later and he's saying, hey, you know, sorry that I dipped out, but, you know, going through some stuff. Is that a cry for help? Is that him asking me as his mentor to listen? Because that a lot of the time in trades, these men don't know how to just say, hey, I'm feeling some type of way, like us women do, right? Our women will say, oh my God, I had the worst day today. This happened and that happened. And men will say, when really they were like fighting a crane 50,000 feet in the air today and almost died 4 times. But they don't say anything, you know. But if I broke a nail, you're going to hear about it. And so there are some people who genuinely don't want to talk about it. And also there are some mentors who just genuinely don't want to talk about it. And that's okay. That's okay. You can say that. Or you can say, you don't have to disclose, right? You don't have to disclose anything to me if you don't want to. You don't have to tell me what's going on. And I just want to put that out there first. But I am willing to keep your confidentiality intact. And what I always say, if you're not going to use a mentor program will always allow, like every mentee will be notified at the start of that program what level of confidentiality is expected, right? And so ours is very, very, very protected. I'll say that, okay? So ours, unless you're going to hurt somebody else, have hurt somebody else, are going to hurt yourself, or have hurt yourself. Those are the only 4 situations where we break confidentiality. And that's not by law. It's by choice. We're a mentor program. We're not HIPAA, you know, we're not covered by HIPAA. We're not a lawyer, right? This is by choice. And by having it be a choice and not something we're forced into, it gains a whole lot of trust from our mentees and from our mentors. If my mentee is struggling, say, with addiction or something, and I tell my mentee, you know, how we got my sister through it, right? And then my mentee without even knowing how I feel about it, goes and tells everybody that my sister's a drug addict. That's a problem, right? I mean, I don't care. My sister doesn't care. That doesn't mean that's the case for everyone, right? And so we have to be really, really, really clear about what our level of confidentiality is. And you are more than able to set your own. That's the other thing, even if you're part of a program. So say I'm not part of a program, but this kid, I don't like saying that. I say it all the time, and I'm really sorry to my younger HVAC techs. I do not mean to call you kids. I just love you so much. So a younger HVAC tech will come and say, you know, hey, do you know about this? Hey, I'm on the system right now. Hey, this. So it just kind of becomes a natural mentorship where I'm just the person that this person comes to and asks me those questions, right? And he may say something that is not going to hurt somebody else, has hurt somebody else, going to hurt himself, or has hurt somebody else, right? Maybe he hits on me. Where's that covered in HVA-Chicks confidentiality? And my point is it's not. It's not covered. And the reason for that is because who am I to say? I need every single individual to decide what they're comfortable with, and I need them to make that a hard no, right? So if I have a mentor and a mentee fall in love, right? It's happened. It's happened, and they're still together today, 2 years later. It's happened. If I have a mentor and a mentee fall in love, who am I to say you can't talk about that? You know what I mean? But at the same time, if that's not the case, I need my mentor or my mentee, whoever's uncomfortable, to be able to break that confidentiality and say, I don't feel comfortable. This is it. So you need to set your own internal boundaries too. Just because a program sets those very extreme boundaries for you doesn't mean that smaller boundaries shouldn't exist. And you have to set those yourself. So make sure that you are setting independent values. Really, really, really matter, you guys. They really matter. The other thing is I may be willing to share more than another mentor is willing to share, right? About my past, about my current situation. I may be willing to listen to more, right? There are some HVA-Chicks mentors who are here only to mentor in the job. So there's a level of separation there that you've got to have set independently, because say Tom feels like he only wants to mentor on HVAC and that's it. He doesn't want any non-HVAC questions or advice to give, right? But I am me and I do it all in or not at all. Now our mentees talk to each other, and this mentee says, oh, Jennifer lets me spill my guts. And this mentee says, oh, Tom doesn't want to hear it. That has to be okay, right? That has to be okay. We are individuals volunteering on an individual basis, making the conscious choice inside to say, I want to help another person. That does not give, I'm going to write this down too. That does not give people, oh, now what's going on? Jeez. That does not give people the right to full. What's happening? It just deleted everything I wrote. Full disclosure. Anyway, you choose your disclosure amount. How much you disclose, how much you want them to disclose. They choose how much to disclose to you. And again, just make sure that your choice, you need to make the right choice immediately. And that is very, very important in mentoring. It happens when we're on the fly, right? We don't typically get a question at the perfect time of the perfect day of the perfect week that we have all the time in the world to sit and walk this person through their problem. We live the same life they live. We're crazy. We're not just giving up all of our time to do this, right? And so most of the time when a mentor match is made and a mentee asks a question or needs advice on something, the mentor is reading it on the fly. They get this email on their phone. They're on a roof. They're in the car, right? We're not always like fully conscious of what we're doing. And so it's really important, first of all, to wait until you have full attention on the issue. Wait until you have full attention on the issue. I don't care what the problem is. It's not worth you texting and driving. Not even a little bit. It's not worth you taking time out of your time with your family, your children, your wife, your aunts and uncles, your nieces. It's not worth that time for you to take that time away. You have to be very conscious of the time you're going to spend mentoring because it can get a lot. It can be overused very, very easily. So you have to be very, very clear in the beginning about how you're going to communicate and when you're going to communicate, right? And how often you're willing to communicate. But once you're in that situation, when you're, trying to pull an evac on a roof and you've got 40 things happening and your valve blows and you pick up your phone and you see this message from your mentee, I don't want you to answer it right now. I want you to leave your mentee on red until you get into an environment internally and externally where now is a good time for me to fully focus on the advice that I was asked to give. Because emotions get in the way, first of all. You also could misread the question. You could give bad advice just because you didn't read the question all the way. You were like, oh my God, now's not the time, right? Just wait. I don't want anybody ever, ever, ever to do that, to just, fanatically respond because you got a message and you feel like you shouldn't make someone wait. All of our mentees at HVA-Chicks know they're going to wait. They know that. It's been drilled into their heads. They're going to wait until you're ready. So that's one thing. Wait until you have full attention on the issue. The next thing is going to be, I can give you advice, but I can't give you the answer. So if you're on a mentor call and it is, let's say it's a question about what should I be making, right? Oh God, how often do we get that awful gosh darn question that I hate so much I want to strangle people? But you'll get that question, and that's why I'm using it for an example, because it's a definite. It's not a question of whether you'll get it or not. You will. So this mentee is saying, I'm 4 years in. I teach all the new guys, and I'm still at $25 an hour. What should I be making? Is my boss ripping me off? Is there an answer you could give to that? Is there an answer you could give to that?
$1 million a year, that's what you should be making.
Tom will give an answer just to punk your ass down a few notches. But you shouldn't give an answer. You don't know the overhead of that company. You don't know the owner and his intentions. You don't know anything about the individual situation. You should not give an answer. You can give advice. You can say, instead of talking about... What was that, Tom?
Walmart reader. Yes.
Sir, I can give you advice, and that's that. Walmart hires everyone at $18 an hour. I hate that question. I'm so sorry. If you've asked me that question and you're now hearing this, I'm so sorry, but I can't do it. It just aggravates me so bad. But I'm also a company owner, so it's really, really hard for me to not stick up for the other company owner, even, and you all know, if I find that the company owner is the problem, that's the last thing I'll do. But it's really hard for me initially to not be like, for all I know, this guy's got 42 trucks. And this guy, for all I know, this guy only shows up to work 1 day a week, right? I don't know what the reasons are. So instead, we're going to walk through that. I'm not going to not mentor you because I don't have an answer for you. Instead, we're going to reflect. We're going to internally reflect as to why you feel the need to ask this question, right? Okay, well, I can't tell you what you should be making, but I might be able to get a little bit closer, in my understanding of the situation, if we can go a little bit deeper. Is that okay with you? And then they choose how much to disclose, right? And you choose how much to disclose about your own experience. Maybe I'm not going to say, I don't know, bro, I started this job at 25 an hour entry level right out of, online trade school. I did, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, it's so situational, right? Not everybody is Jennifer. Not everybody is Tom or John Ellis. Come on. We all have to just kind of take a step back sometimes, and instead of addressing the question at hand, address the root of what caused the question. Okay, well, let's get a little bit deeper. If you want to disclose to me, if you want to talk to me about what's really going on, in detail, I'm happy to listen. And then maybe we can get closer to an answer as to what we need to do here, as to what the outcome should be, not what the answer should be. I'm not going to give you an answer. But sometimes, and this is why this is really important, I can give you an advice, but I can give you advice, but I can't give you an answer. And this is why it's really important, because almost all the time your mentee will say, oh, God, that sounds great. And you'll just see this relief happen. I have been waiting for somebody who actually knows what they're doing to talk to me about this and tell me why I feel so strongly about this, right? Others will say, no, just tell me what you were making when you started out in 1972. Or,
God, I think I'm dating you.
or they'll say, it's okay. I'm just going to go ask my buddy what he's making. Right? Really? That buddy lives in Alaska. He works 24-hour shifts 6 months of the year, and that's why he makes so much money. But little Joe Blow over here is like, I should be making 26 an hour. You know, like, it can get really complicated being a mentor. And it's a lot easier to choose to do things, like to choose to volunteer with causes that don't have human error. I hate saying that so bad. But if I choose to spend my volunteer time, because let me tell you this, and I'll never let up on this ever, every human being should be volunteering somewhere. I don't care where. Somewhere or multiple somewheres. Every human. And if I have 5 minutes of my day to volunteer, I promise you do too. I promise. Every single person should be volunteering. So if I choose to volunteer at an animal shelter, I'm going to have a whole lot less headaches than I am with all my 570 HVAC techs, right? Why wouldn't I choose to just go do that? And that leads me to my next thing, my next point, which is going to be choose wisely before being matched. Being matched. Look at me just not finishing my sentences. Choose wisely before being matched.
What does that mean?
What that means is, do you actually want to be a mentor for actual real like people who breathe and talk back? Are you willing? Are you willing, if you're not, and this is not just before you become a mentor, but it's also before you choose who you're going to mentor for. If you're going to join an organization like ours, or if you're going to do this individually on your own, you need to choose wisely before being matched. I have had both mentees and mentors completely drop out without a single word, just never to be heard from again, ever.
Yep, that was mine.
Yes, John, you have experienced this. Yes. I think,
it was mine from your group.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You've experienced this within our group. We've had a few that have. Every time I get to the bottom of that, it's personal. It's always personal. It never has anything to do with the mentor. It either has to do with they decided the trade wasn't for them, or they decided they suck at the trade. And that's just the end of it. And it's an internal struggle to learn to put yourself in a vulnerable position where you're asking for advice and for help, especially from someone you admire, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I got my first mentor match, I didn't put enough stock in my presence, I guess, right? You never do, right? You're just like, I'm just this girl from Maine. I don't think anything of it. But I guess my presence had gotten away from me a bit. And so the first mentor match that I ever made for myself, I called them because that was how they chose to communicate with me. I called them and they were like, is this really Jennifer? Oh my God, I can't believe you're actually my mentor. Like, I'm going to talk to you like more than once. Like this guy. And I'm like, wow. Now imagine that level of excitement is not for me as a person just because I exist. It's for me as a person in this space, in the space of HVAC.
Yeah.
So if that person is that excited to talk to me, it's not because I'm Tom Cruise. It's because they really are passionate and excited about their job. They know if I'm their mentor, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep giving them everything I got. And so to see that level of excitement on a mentee's face and then 6 weeks later have their mentor completely drop off the face of the earth hurts. It doesn't just hurt. It leaves a lasting stain for the rest of forever. Abandonment is never something that any human can adjust to correctly. We don't have those tools in our humanity tool belt to adjust to abandonment. It's like rejection, right? You can't, human beings don't have the tools. That's all. So we try to avoid it. We really try to avoid abandonment. And so not only should you choose wisely before your match, but shit happens, right? I don't expect to match you together in a match and have you guys last for the rest of your days on the earth, right? Some matches suck, and that's just the truth of it. I can't avoid it. I can try again after, but I can't promise every match is going to be beautiful the first time around. And I've made some good ones. We do have Val and Nick do exist, am I right? But it doesn't mean they're all going to be like that. And so there are things that we have to have in place. There are, communication really is what it is. There are conversations we have to have when this happens. But in the beginning, day one, before you even reach out to an organization, and this would have been great in John's case, because John's mentee dropped out because they dropped out of HVAC altogether, out of the trades altogether. That's a conversation that could have been had. Right, either with John or myself.
I scared her.
No, it was not you. And in
I
fact,
gave her some homework, and she's like, "Homework?"
oh man, my mentees would love you. My mentees are always like, "Can't you just send me a paper or something?" No, but she dropped right out of the trade completely. I mean, you didn't scare her. HVAC did, and HVAC loves to scare away people that I try to get, that I want to stay. I mean, what a mean bully HVAC is.
That's a subject all on its own.
Yes.
That's taken it all by itself.
Yeah, we'll do another class on HVAC bullying. But my point is, if you just want to volunteer your time, or this is what I love to do, and all my anxiety, ADHD people will know exactly what I'm talking about right now. I, at 2 a.m, get this awesome idea in my head, right? And then I'm like, that's it. It's mine. I'm going to run with it. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, and I'm going to be the absolute best at it at 2 a.m. And then the next morning I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's start this. Let's do it. And by 2:00 p.m., I have quit. I'm done with that. I don't know what I was thinking. I am not the type that can just go to astronaut school at 2 a.m. Like, come on, Jennifer, you're not. That's like, this is what I do though. I get really like excited about something and then realize later, like, what was I thinking? I don't want you to do that about being a mentor. I don't want you to choose overnight whether you want to be a mentor or not. I want this to be a long and lasting decision that you've made within yourself, that this is where. And the other thing is, I don't want you to choose it just because it's a way to volunteer your time. HVA-Chicks Jennifer just told me that every person better be volunteering, so I better sign up for this mentor program. That's not what I want. I want you to choose which way you're going to donate your time to make it the best for you and to make it the best for anybody else that it impacts, right? So if you're a people person, being an HVAC mentor is a great idea. It's an awesome idea. If you're not a people person, being an HVAC mentor is a really great idea still. It might not be the greatest idea for you individually, but just because you're more introverted, just because you've never really talked to somebody you don't know before, like all these things are ways where you could try it and see if you do like it, or see if you could find a way that it works, right? Because like we can do email only and then you're not actually like physically talking to somebody. Like there are so many ways that you can make this work for your personality type, but you've got to make sure that it is your decision that you are 100% a go with, because it will end up like Jennifer at 2:00 the next afternoon if you don't. If you're not 100% committed to this, to making it work, it just won't work. And I mean, I'm not saying that sometimes you are 100% committed and the mentee or the mentor isn't the problem. The other person in the party. It happens. Absolutely. Communication, being 100% dedicated. And the other thing is, and this is so important, don't only be dedicated to mentoring. So if you are 100%, this is where I want to volunteer my time, this is going to be my thing that I do, I'm going to mentor. Don't just stay with your first mentor match because you want to mentor and that's what you chose and that's what you're dedicated to. Use communication. Hey, Jennifer, this mentor match that you put me in really just isn't really working out. I don't want to be an asshole and say, hey, I don't like you, so I'm going to cut this off right now. So can you help me to work this out so that this person gets a mentor that would match really, really well with them, and so that I can maybe get a mentee that's going to match really well with me? And that matters. That's why I always say, don't not mentor. First of all, don't not mentor. I'll just leave it at that. Don't not mentor. But if you're going to mentor, really, really highly consider an organization, because there are safeguards in place. We have rules that aren't on you. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I can't talk at 2 a.m. That's against the HVA-Chicks Coalition rules. Right? And there are things within your personal wheelhouse, your personal decisions that you've made about the program. You can blame any of those on HVA-Chicks. We're okay with it. We're fine with it. If a guy is hitting on you and you're like, I don't feel comfortable with this, in the immediate, you can say, I'm so sorry, I have to report this to Jennifer now, because that's HVA-Chicks rules. We're happy to say, yes, it is absolutely 100%. She's right. Right? So don't just stay in a mentorship you don't like just to mentor, or just because you don't want to let people down. Instead, come to me, come to a member of staff. If you're doing it on your own individually, talk to that mentee and just say, hey, I really thought this was what I wanted to do, but this match isn't really working out for me. I'm going to go and explore other options in my life. I'm really sorry. I wish you the best, but have a good day. If you are in the HVA-Chicks Coalition Mentor Program, come to me first, and I'll tell you what to say. I'll tell you how to get out of that mentorship safely and happily, and so nobody's feelings get hurt. It'll be great. But I just want to make sure you're committed, because I don't want the first bad mentor match to quit mentoring for you. I don't want it to ruin something that you could be really, really great at. And when I say, just to circle back around before we end here, when I say that everyone in them has those experiences that are valuable. And again, I don't only mean work experience. I don't even mean, like, you could be a 7-year-old. I don't even mean adult experience. I mean experience in general. So one big thing that we all as humans suffer with and get the glories of is perception. So my life is perceived through my eyes, through my spiritual, physical, mental, and emotional lens, right? So my experience and the consequences and or rewards that came from that experience, I perceive them one way. But I may perceive them as invaluable, right? Whereas somebody else going through something similar might be sitting there going, I just wish I knew anybody who had been in this situation. I wish I knew anybody that I could ask, right? And in most situations, there is somebody out there, right? And if you're a mentor, the other thing is, maybe it's not your experience, but you know people. So what happens in the HVA-Chicks Coalition all the time is I'll say, no, I know nothing about IAQ that is valuable for me to tell you, so let me send you to John Ellis, right? Like, I'm not going to just make something up either, but my experience of knowing John Ellis and having a good relationship with John Ellis is the experience that's being valuable to my mentee now, because now he has that networking open. Like, every single thing you've ever done is valuable. Every person you've ever met, every struggle you've made it through, every reward you've ever had, every time you've ever made somebody happy or made somebody sad. Say you fucked up in your life. So has everyone else. So this person's fuck up might be really, really similar to yours. Or maybe you've always said, if I had it to do all over again, this is how I would handle it. And boom, here's your chance. Because it's not you having it to do over again, but it's you being able to prevent it from somebody else, from them handling that situation the way that you did. And when I say it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, I am 100% telling the truth. The tech support line, when people ask me, I automatically say the tech support line is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. That's because, like I was saying earlier, I get everybody's experience. So instead of me having worked on 10 systems today, I've worked on 40, right? But as far as internally, as far as spiritually, as far as the humanity side of me, mentoring will always be it. Always. Because my mentees can come to me with this heavy stuff they're going through right now. My mentees can come to me and say, I was offered this really, really good job, but I'm afraid that I'm not good enough to accept that. And though it breaks my heart to hear them say that, I can know that I have control over whether they ever have to say it again. Because all they needed was some support. All they needed was the imposter syndrome to have a big old spotlight shined on it. And a lot of the time they go in and they take that advice like, yes, I think you should try it, because what we are on this earth one time. So even if it's a risk, what's stopping you from risking it? Right? There's always another path. If you try this and it bombs out and you fail, well, there's another path coming, right? And sometimes people just need to hear that, or they need to stay in their damn lane, right? So there's the other situations where my mentee will come and say, I'm going to go and apply for vice president of Johnstone Supply today. And they're a 25-year-old 6-month tech. And I'm like, all right, buddy, let's slow this down and talk it through. I'm not giving them an answer. I'm not going to say, because my perception of my own life tells me there's no way in hell he could get that job. And even if he could get that job, he couldn't keep it. Like, that's my perception. His struggles and his life and what he's been through may actually give him the notion that, hey, maybe I could do this. And you don't know, maybe he can. But we need to get to a point together, because he's asked you for advice now. We need to get to a point now where we know if this is like delulu. Are we delusional, honey bun? Or is there something in your life experience that tells you that this is a really good fit for you? And if that's the case, I will fight tooth and nail to watch you succeed in becoming Johnstone's next vice president with 6 months experience. Okay? Like, I will try. But you have got to convince me first that it's not just... Some people are delusional, and I get delusional about shit. Like I said, like the other night I was saying I'm going to sell hats for the HVA-Chicks Coalition. I'm going to crochet hats and make HVA-Chicks tags, and I'm going to sell them, and the money that we get is going to go to our cold weather fund. And that was at 2 a.m. The next day I was like, ew, a crochet needle. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we can get delusional in our own heads, but other people can get delusional, and all they need is for somebody to say, that's a little delusional. Let's walk this back a little bit. Let's see, you're clearly not happy where you're at. So where can we get you that you'll be more happy and won't be creating other universes where you are the VP of Johnstone Supply, right? So that's my advice. And I wanted to do this class not as a class. I want to appeal to your nature, if that makes sense. I want to appeal to the humanity in you that tells you what you're worth. And what you're worth is a whole lot. First of all, a whole lot. Individual humans are worth so much more than they'll ever believe. And I can't tell you. I struggle with the same thing. But what you're worth to someone else is astronomical. Everything that you've been through is so worthy to somebody else's experience. It's astronomical. And I can't sit here and I can't explain that in words that actually feel like they're impactful enough. What I will say is, if you have any bit of your inner being that wants to be a mentor, please just go be a mentor. You can always quit if you don't like it. There are really good ways to get out of a mentorship if you're not feeling it. Maybe you just don't want to mentor, maybe you try this out and you're like, this really isn't for me, man. I'm way too much of an introvert for this. I don't even want to talk to somebody via text message, right? Like, when we get there, we can back you out of it. But what we can't do is start for you. We can help you get out, but we can't help you start. You have to make that internal decision. You have to make it yourself, and you have to make it over a course of time. So even if we make a post saying, hey, we're looking for mentors, I don't want everybody to jump on that post and say, I'll do it. Because no thought has been put into that, other than the thought of, I want to help the HVA-Chicks Coalition, which we appreciate and we love you for all day long. But we want you to succeed. We want your mentee to succeed. And then on top of that, we have people who are mentees and mentors. And we want all of those matches to succeed. So all I'm saying is, there is a shortage of mentors in the world, right? But there's more of a shortage of mentors in HVAC. There are way too many people out there that are afraid that a younger tech is going to come and take their job. They're afraid that they don't know, right? They're afraid they don't know. And sometimes that's true. We have new technology, digi gauges. Evacuations just started, 15, 20 years ago? Like, I mean, sometimes you will not know. And there not only are people you can ask, but think of the amount you could learn from your mentee. If you've been in the field 40 years and you never learned about saturation temperatures or airflow or obviously inverters, right? Or any of the new technology that we have now, say you never learned about that. That's not your fault. You were in school your mentee can teach you as well. So something to think about. You're not only giving, you're getting. You're becoming 79% more hireable. You're becoming 85% more promotable in your own life. So if you have it in your heart, if you think it might be a good decision for you, please reach out to a member of HVA-Chicks staff. You can reach out to me and just say, hey, who's a good mentor for me to talk to? I'm thinking about joining, and maybe there's a mentor that I could talk to. You know, if you are in a match that goes south, be patient. Wait, because your person is coming. There's always going to be a person that comes along, like Chrissy and Jamie, right? Christy and Jamie would never have met each other if Christy did not wait 5 years for her mentor match. And now they are the best match I've ever seen, other than Nick and Val, disclaimer, because Nick and Val is the best I've ever seen by far. But if you have it in your heart, do it. What was that, Tom?
Bromance.
Yeah, they're far beyond a mentorship. I feel as though they've crossed some lines that I should probably be worried about. Yeah, the bromance lives strong. Anyway, if you're interested in mentoring. Danny, is that you?
Yep, I muted it.
Okay. If you're interested in mentoring, reach out to a member of HVA-Chicks staff. Even if you don't want to mentor for us, any one of us, like, we don't care if you're going to mentor for us or not. Everything we do is free. We have no ulterior motives here. So reach out to a member of staff and just say, hey, I want to mentor. What are my best options? And can you maybe walk through with me so we can decide if this is right for me? Any one of us are happy to do that. You can ask for another mentor who's been in for a while to talk to if you want to know, like, really, how does this work? It looks great on paper, but really, how does this work? And we're happy to match you with one of those just to have conversations with and to come to a conclusion with. If you want to mentor outside of the coalition, my advice is to focus on HVAC groups on Facebook. That's a really good place to start. It's kind of our indemnity to the new school chat room, right? I would love to see 1 million people. There's 7,000 or 70,000 people in HVAC for life, and boy, do they need a come into Jesus moment. But you could be that come into Jesus moment. And so if I could see 70,000 mentors post an HVAC for life and say, hey, who wants a mentor? You'd be surprised, because publicly they may not say, ooh, me, but you're going to get a message in your inbox that says, hey man, I'd really like to be mentored. You have that option. Go out and just mentor all on your own. You can mentor 50 people if you want. Say you want to mentor at your own company. Give us a call. We'll show you how to do that. Yeah, Tom mentors at his own company about 5 million fucking people. So if Tom can do it, the rest of you can. And Tom is my mentor on top. Tom is all of our mentor on top of that. Like, this is not, it's like when you have another kid, it doesn't take, you don't give your other kid half the love. Your heart just grows bigger, and your brain just grows bigger, and you're just more able to pour into these people. So don't stop at one. Don't stop at none. If you feel like you might be a good mentor, reach out and ask. And if you need further training on mentoring, we're happy to do as many of these as it takes. We're happy to answer individual questions, specific questions. We're happy to walk through you all the time. We have one staff member who has a mentor that he's struggling with right now, and we're all involved. We're all involved on trying to level out that situation so that it can stay a situation. But if it comes to a point where it can't, that's on me. Join an organization if you want that level of backing behind you, because I will always back you up, no matter what. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut the live on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here. We can't do anything if you don't come. It makes no sense for us to do anything if you don't come. You guys are downloading at a massive rate. You're listening later at a massive rate. You're even showing up at 3:15 on a Saturday. Like, thank you guys. We appreciate you being here, and we're happy to help any way we can. All right, guys, ta-ta for now. I'm going to cut it out. Bye. Maybe not.